JP Morgan, the titan of banking power, has announced it cannot fulfill 40,000 silver contracts, an unprecedented failure that shakes the very foundations of trust, liquidity, and deliverability in the commodities market. This is not a distant problem affecting traders in a faraway city. It is a threat that could ripple through pensions, savings, and retirement plans worldwide. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission has acted, issuing a shocking ban on silver purchases that takes effect in just 72 hours. The countdown has begun. Every second that passes without understanding the scope of this crisis increases the risk to ordinary citizens and investors alike. Before you continue, pause for a moment. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this is the kind of financial revelation that most mainstream sources will not cover in real time. The difference between knowledge and ignorance here could determine whether your savings survive or evaporate in the coming storm. Let's break it down. The crisis stems from a perfect storm of over-leveraging, derivatives, and the fragile illusion of infinite liquidity. Silver, unlike stocks or bonds, has a tangible, finite supply. Every contract in the futures market represents a promise to deliver physical ounces of silver at a future date. JP Morgan is responsible for millions of ounces, yet when the contracts mature, the physical silver simply does not exist in sufficient quantities. Imagine a supermarket where thousands of customers hold coupons for items that no longer exist. Panic is inevitable. Prices spike. Market chaos ensues. And ordinary investors are caught in the vice of over-leveraged bets they can neither see nor control. This is where history provides a chilling blueprint. Recall 2008, when mortgage-backed securities and derivatives created an illusion of stability across global finance. When defaults began, institutions once considered unshakable required emergency bailouts, and ordinary citizens lost homes, pensions, and trust in the system. Today, the silver market mirrors that same dynamic, but with far less public awareness and a ticking clock measured in hours rather than months. To understand why JP Morgan's failure matters, consider the math. Each silver contract represents 5,000 ounces. Multiply that by 40,000 contracts, and you are looking at 200 million ounces of silver that the bank is contractually obligated to deliver. Now, compare that to physical silver reserves worldwide. The numbers do not add up. There is simply not enough silver to meet the paper promises, and this imbalance is a time bomb, ticking silently beneath the surface of global markets. The CFTC's emergency ban on silver purchases is both a protective measure and a warning. Regulators recognize that the system is overextended and that a cascade of defaults could trigger a systemic collapse. But halting buying does not resolve the underlying imbalance. It merely compresses the timeline. Investors have a narrow window to respond, and those who ignore it may face catastrophic losses. Ordinary citizens, retirees, and small investors who rely on savings in ETFs, futures, or retirement accounts may find themselves unable to liquidate positions, forced to absorb sudden price shocks. Visualize this: the financial system as a high-stakes game of musical chairs. Each contract, each leveraged bet, each derivative is a player. As long as there are enough chairs, the physical assets, the music continues. But remove a few chairs, and the scramble becomes chaotic, dangerous, and potentially devastating. This is exactly the scenario unfolding in silver markets today. Every unfulfilled contract is a domino waiting to topple, a trap door beneath the feet of investors worldwide. The crisis extends beyond silver. It exposes the fragility of global financial engineering. Central banks, national debt strategies, and digital currency frameworks operate on principles of trust, liquidity, and deliverability. When one pillar falters, others are affected. Imagine a spider web. Disturb one strand too violently, and the entire structure quivers, threatening the safety of everything suspended within it. In this case, that everything includes pensions, retirement funds, and ordinary savings accounts. Digital currencies and crypto assets add another layer of complexity. Many market participants assume that blockchain-based assets are insulated from systemic risk. They are not. Just as with silver futures, over-leveraged positions and insufficient collateral in digital markets can trigger cascading failures. When combined with a national debt crisis, rising inflation, and the overextension of credit, the conditions for a financial storm of unprecedented scale are present. The historical parallels are striking. During the Great Depression, tangible assets such as gold and silver offered a hedge against financial collapse. Those who held paper promises or speculative instruments suffered severe losses. Today, the same lesson applies. Physical assets retain value when promises fail. Yet, unlike the 1930s, modern markets are intertwined on a global scale, with high-speed trading, algorithmic strategies, and derivatives creating a system that is simultaneously more efficient and far more fragile. Let's focus again on silver. The impossibility of delivering 40,000 contracts reveals a systemic imbalance that ordinary investors rarely perceive. Banks and financial institutions have long relied on leverage and fractional ownership. Paper contracts far exceed the underlying physical assets. This works while trust holds, while the illusion of liquidity persists. But the moment that trust is challenged, the market can seize up. Prices spike, panic ensues, and those unprepared, savers, retirees, everyday citizens, bear the brunt. Imagine a massive seesaw. On one side, physical silver. On the other, paper contracts and derivatives. As more contracts accumulate, the paper side grows heavier, tilting the seesaw toward collapse. When a bank like J.P. Morgan cannot deliver, the seesaw tips violently. Price spikes, margin calls, and forced liquidations follow in rapid succession, threatening not just institutional investors, but global financial stability. The consequences extend to national debt and public finance. Governments, dependent on complex financial engineering, rely on stable markets to fund operations and service debt. A silver-induced liquidity crisis could force central banks to intervene, printing currency or enacting emergency measures, further eroding trust in paper money and accelerating inflation. Retirees, whose savings are denominated in fiat currency, become collateral damage in a battle few even recognize. Time is critical. The CFTC's 72-hour ban compresses opportunities for action into an extremely narrow window. Investors and citizens must act decisively, securing tangible assets, diversifying holdings, and preparing for volatile market swings. Hesitation is costly. Delay could mean exposure to price spikes, frozen markets, and a loss of capital that may take decades to recover. To put it bluntly, this is a live, unfolding financial crisis, not a hypothetical scenario. The mechanisms, over-leveraged contracts, derivatives, and systemic opacity, create a scenario where a single failure can ripple globally. Ordinary investors, relying on banks and regulators for protection, may find that safety is an illusion. Every day that passes without understanding the scale and immediacy of the crisis increases risk. The stakes are not abstract. Pension funds, retirement accounts, ETFs, and savings instruments tied to commodities are at risk. The collapse of deliverable silver contracts could trigger margin calls, forced liquidations, and unprecedented volatility. The financial infrastructure, though complex and opaque, is vulnerable. Trust, once broken, is almost impossible to restore. This is not a distant warning. It is immediate, measurable, and urgent. The metaphor is clear. Imagine a city where every bridge is structurally compromised, yet traffic continues as if nothing is wrong. One by one, bridges fail, leaving residents trapped, resources blocked, and emergency services unable to respond. Financial markets operate under the same principle. Liquidity is the bridge, contracts are the traffic. Once bridges fail, chaos is inevitable. Yet even in chaos, opportunity exists. Physical ownership of silver, diversification into tangible assets, and careful engagement with alternative currencies can provide a lifeline. But timing is everything. The difference between acting today and acting tomorrow could determine whether a family preserves wealth or sees it evaporate in days. The message is urgent and simple. JP Morgan's failure is not isolated. It is the visible tip of a financial iceberg composed of national debt imbalances, derivatives, and over-leveraged positions. The CFTC ban is a warning, a compressed timeline, and a signal that the crisis is imminent. Ordinary citizens, investors, and retirees must understand the stakes, prepare for volatility, and secure tangible assets. The countdown is real. The contracts remain unfulfilled. The storm is coming. Every hour, every minute, and every decision matters. This is not a drill. The mechanisms of the financial system are exposed. The imbalance is severe, and the window to act is closing. For those paying attention, opportunity exists, but only for the prepared. For those ignoring the warning, consequences are unavoidable. The crisis is systemic, the stakes are enormous, and the clock is ticking.